The September 10th, 2018 meeting of the Union County Board of Adjustment is now in session. My name is Darren Green. I'm the board chairman. To my left, Mr. Mark Tilley, who is our vice chairman, Mr. Rob Thornton, board member, Bill Sturgis, who is our board attorney. To my right, we have board members Rick Davis and Jennifer Stewart. Also with us tonight, Union County Zoning Administrator Jill King. We have three types of hearings our board hears. Those include applications for variances from regulations and zoning ordinance, appeals from decisions or interpretation of the zoning administrator, or an application for a special use permit. The order of each case will be as follows. All parties who plan to give testimony, pro or con, must complete a green form, which is located here on the disc, and be sworn in. A zoning staff member will explain why the permit was denied or why a variance is requested or the nature of the special use permit application. The board may question the zoning staff member. The applicant may question the zoning staff member, and then the applicant will present his or her testimony for their case. The board may question the applicant. The zoning staff member and persons in opposition may question the applicant. The applicant may also present sworn witnesses. They will be subject to cross-examination. All parties wishing to speak pro or con will be given reasonable time to present sworn testimony. They will also be subject to cross-examination. The zoning staff member and the applicant will be given an opportunity for rebuttal. After a case, the board will review the case and render a decision. This is usually done following the close of the public hearing and the board's deliberation. However, the board may elect to take up to 30 days in which to render a decision. You may remain present during the deliberations, or you may call the zoning staff after the session to receive the decision of the board. All exhibits must be presented to the board through our clerk, who is not here tonight, but they would be presented to Mr. King. If your case is not appealed to Superior Court after 30 days, you may pick them up or they will be destroyed. If you feel there's a conflict of interest of any member of this board or any association that would prejudice your case, please let me know at the start of your case. We are a quasi-judicial board and can accept only sworn testimony. Therefore, no hearsay evidence is admissible. Any appeal from this board is to the Union County Superior Court. You have 30 days from the date of the board's written decision in which to appeal in accordance with North Carolina General Statute 160A-388E. I remind everyone to please at this time turn off any cell phone so we're not listening to pretty little noises as we go through this. At this time, I will open our agenda up. We have first item A, determination of quorum. And we do have a full board tonight, so we have a quorum. Second item on our agenda is item B, appeal CZ-201-80034. This is a violation running a commercial junkyard / salvage yard from a residential zone property, tax parcel number 08-312-134, located at 100 Ranch Drive. At this time, I believe Mr. Burrows has counsel representing him tonight. Mr. Bennett, I assume that would be you.
Good evening. To disclose.
We want to go ahead and ask for any, at this time, he's going to ask something here, but we'll go ahead and get that done. Does anyone have any conflict they need or anything they'd like to?
Yes, I'd like to bring before the board. About 2 weeks ago, I was contacted by a friend of mine who was contacted by a friend of his. And he said, Rick, I realize you're on the Board of Adjustment, and a friend of mine has asked me to talk to someone to see if they can do some. I said, what are you talking about? He said, about the appeal from the junkyard and the salvage yard. I said, I'm sorry, I can't discuss anything about it. I said, I can give you a recommendation that if there's any issues that you have, that you need to retain a lawyer. But as far as you and I discussed, I can't discuss any information with you. Will that have any effect on the night?
Nothing to me. I think you did the right thing.
I don't have any objection.
And he has an attorney, so.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Anybody else? Okay. All right, Mr. Bennett.
I represent Mr. Burrows in this appeal. And since we filed this a couple of months ago, Mr. Burrows has actually decided to pursue a rezoning of the property in question. And we're currently taking steps to file our rezoning application. 2 weeks ago, we met with Union County staff, including Mr. King and several others, in regards to that rezoning, during which we agreed to make a joint motion tonight to defer this appeal. Pending your approval, of course, we would ask that the appeal be removed from the calendar while the rezoning process is pending, while also giving staff the option to initiate a hearing on the appeal at any time within the next 6 months if for some reason our application didn't get filed or stalled out or something like that. So that's what we're asking. It is a joint motion to defer.
Okay, so board, basically what's happened here is they're in the process of a legislative solution. That does not always happen quickly, so we can't really give an exact time frame on how long. I believe you're asking for 6 months, roughly thereabout.
That's correct. I can't tell you, it's not just a kind of a glimmer in our eye. We've got our site survey done, we've got our site plan done, and right now we're trying to figure out what we need to do in terms of compliance with environmental health and building code. And as soon as we can figure that out, then we'll have our application filed.
Yeah, I think we need to hear from the zoning administrator and also see if there's anyone else here
Okay.
that has an interest in this.
Okay. Do I need to swear these people in just to ask
Not
questions
for-
about this?
Not for continuance.
Okay. Mr. King?
Yes, sir. We have met with the applicant and his attorney here, and we concur. We would be, very open to the deferment so they can pursue the rezoning.
Okay. Is there anyone else here who would like to speak to this matter, either in opposition to us deferring this or in favor? Yes, ma'am, you may come forward, please. I need you to state your name.
Hi, my name is Kristen Henson, and I live right down the road from the body shop, or the junkyard that y'all call it. They've been there for many, many years. Their parents were there, my parents were there. I don't necessarily understand all of the legalities of this particular issue, but we do support him, and we do want him to stay there.
Okay.
We're not really in favor of how this kind of all shook out. It seemed shaky
Okay.
at best. So I just wanted you to know that there are people that do support him and would like that.
All right, thank you so much. Anyone else? Yes, sir. Please state your name.
My name is Benny Helms. I own the property across the street. We've been neighbors for over 40 years. They're excellent neighbors. That thing's been there, and I don't see any problem with it. I don't want that man messed with, period.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Again, my name is Marie Nicole Jackson. I live in the same street for 40 years. Again, been there, not disturbed. I don't even know why we're here for this process, except for corporate money. Anyway, I'm in support of
Okay,
Mr.
thank you,
Burke.
ma'am. I appreciate that. Anyone else? All right, we have a request here to defer this. I'll need a motion from the board.
Make a motion to defer.
Motion to defer by Mr. Davis. Is there a second?
I'll second.
We have a second by Mr. Thornton. Any other discussion? All right, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Y'all have a nice evening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, the second item on the agenda tonight is special use permit 2018-001. Special use permit, the Humane Society of Union County, North Carolina, to build a new spay and neuter clinic. Tax parcel 09-381-004, located on North Carolina Highway 75. Mr. King, you just come up. I'm gonna have to swear you in. You swear that you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so yeah. Thank you, sir. And that will hold for the next case as well. I'm not swearing you in twice. Mr. King, is the permit complete as needed?
Yes, sir, it is.
Okay. This time, does anyone on the board have any conflict with this case?
I'd just like to bring up that I do have a cat that has been there and goes there for shots to the low-cost spay and neuter. that's located at that address. I Googled it, just out of curiosity and just to disclose.
Thank you.
Just wanted to make that known.
Thank you. I don't believe that's a problem. All right. Hearing that there are no other conflicts, do I have a motion to hear the special use permit request?
I'm here to make a motion to hear this request.
Mr. Thornton makes a motion to have a second.
Second.
Second by Mr. Davis. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, Mr. Mr. Davis. Mr. Land, Mr. Zoning Administrator, whatever your title is today. Tell us about this case, sir.
All right, well, first of all, I want to tell you that we've got a new format for our PowerPoint presentations. Bjorn Hansen, who's our senior transportation planner, he's very good with GIS, and so we're trying to keep it in keeping with the planning board presentations and the county commission presentations as well. With that, I planned to spend more time on this PowerPoint presentation today, but unfortunately I was in meetings all day long, so I've got the pretty pictures, but I don't have the meat of the request in the PowerPoint, so I'll have to kind of give that to you up front. As Mr. Green stated, the property is located at 4015 Waxhaw Highway, which is also known as Highway 75. The property is currently zoned RA40. The Humane Society exists on the property today. They have acquired the parcel beside them and have combined that to their existing parcel to make one large parcel. What they're looking at doing is expanding their facility. The house that is being used as the neuter spay clinic today is going to become offices, and they're going to build a new nude spay clinic on the property. The building's approximately going to be 3,000 square foot, and they have also included in their request future shelter and kennels, and they are asking for a 5-year vesting period because they don't have the financial funds to do everything at one time. So it's going to be incremented over a period of 5 years. As you can see here, the property in question is outlined, and this map is kind of far back, so I'll circle it right there for you. And then it is surrounded by residential agricultural zoning, and it is also zoned residential agricultural. And then also to the west of the property, there is a larger piece of property that is zoned light industrial. I'm going to get my circle off there. The land use plan calls for the area to be mixed residential. However, we have what we call an employment corridor, which encourages employment venues along this corridor. So it would be in keeping with the land use plan if approved this evening. There are no real environmental features surrounding the property. There are some wetlands and some streams that you can see indicated on the illustration right there. And there are no municipalities located close to the proposed facility. Our transportation CTP, which is our capital improvements plan, through the CRIPTO, which is the Metropolitan Planning Organization in Charlotte, does the transportation outlook for Union County, Mecklenburg County, and a portion of Iredell County. They are calling or saying that Highway 75 in the future should be a 4-lane road. However, there's no funding in place for it now, and we're probably looking 20, 30 years down the road for any of those improvements to take place. The development status of the property, you can see the properties in gray are showing that they are developed. Properties in green are undeveloped or underdeveloped. In this case, it's showing that this area is being developed. And I know this is really hard to see, but this is the site plan that was submitted to me. This area right here is the area that is existing today. They're proposing to put this adjacent parking area here, and this would be the new structure that they're looking at permitting as soon as possible, with a future expansion over here to this side of the screen. They don't have any real plans in as far as the building elevations. However, this is the look that they're going for, something close to one of these 4 pictures right here, to kind of mimic the existing structures on the property, to give that cool rural charm of the county. And this is the existing conditions. The top 2 pictures show the existing structure and the parking that's provided to it. The bottom 2 pictures are would be the property to the left of the house and where the proposed expansion would take place. And the staff recommendations, as always, I always recommend that plan must comply with all local, state, and federal requirements. The site plan should fully comply with the Union County Development Ordinance and other departmental development regulations. To limit the property to a single access point, right now, when they first submitted their site plan, or the conceptual plan, it was showing 3 access points along NC 75, and staff recommends only 1, and they're working with NCDOT presently on that. All parking spaces shall be clearly marked, and the easy way to do that is by using concrete wheel stops. This property also falls in the Lakely Water Supply watershed and is limited to 36% impervious coverage. I've been working with their design professionals who are working towards this, and believe that they have there's some property right across the street that is contiguous, actually, it is contiguous with this parcel, and it's undevelopable property. So it will never be its own standalone parcel. Therefore, they're able to use that land area towards their overall impervious coverage calculations. And then lastly, when they do submit for permits, that they have a detailed landscape plan that they submit with that, and it must be approved at staff at that time. This time, staff has nothing else, and if the board has any questions to staff, we'll be happy to answer them.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Hey, will there be any overnight boarding at this facility, or is this just gonna be like daytime in and out?
That I'm not real sure of. That's something that the applicant can answer that.
Okay.
I have a question. Do they have water and sewer at that facility now?
Right now, I believe it's well and septic.
Any other questions for Mr. King?
Is there a different zoning for kennels versus a veterinary clinic? Or different special, or any, it seems to me, kennels often have more strict rules for a variety of reasons.
Well, with the special use permit, if they do have any overnight killing, it would be allowed. The permit would allow that. And I believe that's why they were originally went through the special use process. Like I said, they've already got a permit in place. They're just looking at expanding the facility and amending the permit.
Do you have a copy of that permit that we can look at?
I've got a copy downstairs, but not with me up here.
Might be helpful for someone to bring that up so we can see what permit exists.
Okay.
Sorry, I didn't mention that to you earlier.
Yeah, I can run down there in a second and go get it. That'd be an issue.
Curiosity, special use permit versus rezoning. Weighing back and forth, why not just rezone this lot?
We've actually met with the applicant on that and discussed that with them a couple of times. Because there's already a special use permit in existence, the applicant felt like it'd be easier just to go ahead and amend that than to go into request for rezoning. Staff would have supported either one of them.
Mr. King, do you remember in the special use permit they already have, if there were provisions for, if it was overnight boarding, for the waste that would become from the homes, as far as disposing of any waste they might have or anything? I don't know if you remember if there's anything, I don't remember if there's anything in it or
There
not.
wasn't no overnight boarding on it. It was you take them down there and then they carried them to like Albemarle and got them fixed and you picked them up that evening, I think. I think the big question we had on the other one was the fact that it was a sewer instead of, or,
Coming up, septic tank.
yeah, septic tank instead of the other sewer. And that's, at that time, that's why they said they was going to the other facility.
That would be my only question as far as the, I guess, the waste, you might say. If there is from overnight, what would be done with it, and how would it be handled? And I didn't know if the other permit covered it or not, or the special use permit.
Like I said, I'll be happy to get down there and grab it real quick
Okay.
when they're doing that presentation.
Really good.
Question. I'm sitting here, it's hard to read these plans. It does say future animal shelter and kennels shown here on the plans. Would this be something that we would be discussing tonight for this approval?
Yes,
Or is
ma'am.
this like on, okay, just want to make sure. Okay.
Anything else for Mr. King before he runs downstairs?
Thank you, Mr. King.
If you'd do that for me, please, I'd appreciate that. All right, at this time, the applicant and anyone who wishes to speak in favor of this petition would need to come forward and be sworn. Anyone who is presenting or speaking, you can all come at once to get sworn, and then we'll divvy up your time later. Just I need everybody sworn right now.
Sure.
If you think you might, if you don't think, you don't know, I'm just willing, hey, we can all get sworn tonight.
Sounds good.
All right, you swear the evidence you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God. All right, so whoever wants to start, please come forward. Make sure you do fill out that green sheet and tell me your name, please.
I'm Ashton Walker. I work with Cardno. I'm a civil engineer. And this is Heather Finn with the Humane Society. So we will answer any questions that you may have that James was not able
Okay.
to answer.
All right.
Okay. How will the biohazard waste be handled? Because I'm assuming at this point you will be doing spaying and neutering on site, correct?
Yes. It will be taken away. The sharps containers and other medical facilities will take it away.
Okay, so then when you're cleaning the utensils used to perform the surgeries, is any byproduct of that also, in other words, is anything going to be put in, washed in down the sink drain into the septic system?
No, they're currently, well, yes, that would be. I mean, if the instruments are cleaned and wiped before they're put into the sink system. And then they're washed and they go through a full sterilization. Does that answer your question?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Any other questions for these ladies?
Well, as was asked a while ago, will there be overnight boarding there?
So the clinic would not have overnight boarding. The eventual animal shelter would, and it wouldn't be public boarding. That would be for Humane Society fosters only.
So how many would you be looking at?
I'm not sure. We were asked to dream when we submitted for this, and that was what we were looking at. My guess would be maybe 50 runs.
Well, has environmental health give y'all a permit to do this yet?
We've submitted to them, but we haven't heard anything from them, to my knowledge.
Okay.
Question. So the kennels depicted here, are they open to the exterior or are they enclosed? So there would be an exterior wall around them?
Yes, so they would be both inside and outside runs.
Okay.
Question. In some of the kennels that we have dealt with in the past, there's been questions about the noise that's generated. If you've got 50 runs, does that mean you could have 50 pets there, 50 dogs there?
We could. We've asked for the way that it's been depicted on the drawing, that the runs, the outdoor runs, are on the inside of the property versus facing neighbors. They're facing away from the neighbors.
Well, on the kennel part, will you be putting animals there that will be up for adoption, or is it only animals that have been worked on and waiting to go home?
So the kennel part would only be for animals that are up for adoption.
So basically what you're saying is if an animal comes and is spayed or neutered, they're gonna go home.
Yes, they go
That's
home
it.
that day.
Yeah.
They're dropped off between 7 and 8 in the morning, and they go home by 5 o'clock that afternoon.
So really and truly, you won't have a use for the overnight kennel until you start the adoption process out of that site.
Correct.
Okay. So one really has nothing to do with the other.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Board, you have documentation they have presented here. Anyone have anything you want to point out or any questions? As you know, we have 5 questions we have to answer. So we need to make sure we're all prepared to answer those 5 questions.
Could you guys tell me the date on your site plan? I believe that they were distributed before the latest revisions were made.
Well, you talking about this little tiny thing? 'Cause that's all I've got.
Y'all need a bigger, I'm sorry.
We've
I
got a
can't
little
walk my-
tiny itty bitty one, and it's hard for me to even read. I have fairly good eyesight. I had an exam a couple weeks ago, but I can't read much on this.
Yes.
So do you want to submit these 2 documents, this letter to Mr. King and this site plan as exhibit? Okay, why don't we do that?
So we got Exhibit A and Exhibit B, is that what you're saying here?
Sure. Why don't we
Okay.
make exhibit A, the site plan,
Site plan is Exhibit A,
just want to pass it down. We don't have to-
and B will be a letter that you have.
Leave August 17th.
And these items are just in response to Mr. King's recommendations and the comments that he had on the first round of submission.
Okay.
So everything has been addressed on this latest site plan.
And hopefully he'll be back soon. If you have any questions for him. Mr. Sturgis?
Yes.
As it relates to this kennel part,
Right.
if we approve this tonight, do they have a time constraint on when they have to build that?
Well, normally they do. I think normally the special use permit you have to build within a year. They have asked for, and I wanted to ask Mr. King about that, for a 5-year vesting period, meaning they would have up to 5 years to build rather than the 1-year period. I just wanted to find out how common that was in the county, whether it's been done before, and
I'm pretty sure it's been done before because I remember giving one on something, but I can't tell you what it was.
I remember something regarding one too. with
Yeah, I don't know what it
like a
was.
Grocery store or something.
if I was here, I forgot about it, but there. Also would like to ask him kind of the authority for our ability to do that.
Okay.
This may be in general authority.
So today, we're looking at the expansion of the spay and neuter with the possibility of future build for a kennel.
That's correct. The immediate plan is for the future spay and neuter clinic. The kennels are just conceptual in nature, and they're really meant, as Mr. King indicated, it's just kind of a dream big, 5-year plan if they raise the money, but the immediate plan is for the spay and neuter clinic.
The assumption here is they're asking for this both so that they don't have to come back.
That's where that question comes from.
Yeah, I understand that, so. All right. Any other questions for these ladies while we're waiting on Mr. King?
Yeah, are there 50, doesn't look like that there are 50 runs to me, but I may not be reading this correctly. I
She
know, but I
said
don't
50,
see
but
them
it
on
don't
the
look like
site.
50 in here to me. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Maybe 25 or something?
Yeah, I was gonna say, 50 are not shown, it'll be, that was just a configuration, just purely conceptual.
Gotcha.
22 is what's shown currently on the plan.
22 shown on the plan.
Are you asking for a specific number, or are you asking for what's on the plan, or?
I don't believe the intent was to dive too deep into the specifics on the kennel at this point, because it's just a future concept, really. As far as the the square footage of the building for the spay and neuter clinic is what's been decided upon, and we calculated the required parking for that. But because this is kind of phase 2 of the future improvements, they really haven't been decided upon at this point, unless Heather has additional information.
Hard to do that, and not know the specifics on it.
I mean, it would really be what fits. I mean, essentially, there would only be a specific, I mean, I'm not sure what the number would be, but, you know, based upon the space.
But I mean, it's sort of hard to give somebody a special use permit with
Sure,
no boundaries to it.
that makes sense.
You know,
Yeah.
we had need specific.
So that's what I'm kind of concerned about. So are we approving go ahead and approve the kennel tonight also?
Well, that's what
Yeah,
we want.
5
yeah,
years?
yeah, that- it's a,
Mr. King, could you explain the 5-year deal with regards to the kennel part?
Yes, sir. The 5-year vesting will allow them up to 5 years to build all improvements on the site that they're proposing. Otherwise, without the 5-year vesting, they've got a year from the time of any approval to get the permit, and they've got 2 years to construct. So even if they may show everything and they don't get the 5-year vesting within that 2-year regular vesting period, then they'd have to come back and amend their plan again.
Okay.
Well-
Okay, the question is, how can we approve a special use permit when we don't have specific plans for that part? We don't know how many runners there's gonna be. We don't.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with the spay and neuter part now because that's pretty well cut and dry. But the kennel, I'm in question about approving something when we don't even have something in front of us to approve. Because you started off saying 50 runs, now we're back to 22. So it's kind of leaving us in an open, like Mark's saying, and we really don't know which way we're headed with.
I mean, I guess the only thing you could do is restrict it to this size that's laid out there for it. If you restricted it to that size, then whatever they can legally put in won't matter at that point.
Well, and you have the right as the board to make modifications to their plan or put any restrictions you feel necessary to put on there.
I would feel more comfortable to say like approve the spay and neuter clinic and we're on the 5-year plan. And then once they develop their plans that they want to do with the kennel run, come back and let us do that, rather than approving something that we don't even know what we're looking at. How do y'all feel about it?
We're fine with that. It was recommended to us to kind of go for the whole thing at once as sort of a master plan for the whole piece of property. But again, the immediate need and the immediate plan is only for the spay and neuter clinic, so they haven't even looked into specifics for the kennels yet.
Well, as far as myself, I wouldn't have a problem with the kennel as long as it was restricted to the area that's shown to us right now.
But I don't think that's being fair to them though.
Why?
Because you're restricting them, they're right, but they're just speculating now.
Okay.
Because what they're saying is, they might want to go with 50, and if we only approve 22, that's where they're at. I would rather do it as an open.
What I'm saying is, forget the number of the runners and just the size of the area, whatever they can put in there in that size that fits whatever regulations they have to go by, restrict it to that.
So that would be the spay and neuter clinic that you're referring to
No, I'm
there.
talking about the kennel part. The
Oh,
size of
kennel, okay, the
part.
kennel also.
Jim, do you have the notice that was posted for this special use permit? The
I'm-
notice?
Notice?
Yeah.
Sorry, I was pointing at the wrong thing, I'm sorry.
Okay. That's what you're saying, yeah.
Yeah, I do point out to the board, the special use permit that was granted before in December 2009 says no outside runs or overnight stay for animals, so.
Right, that was, well, I mean, the whole thing, when it was presented to us at that time, was it was a drop-off point and a pickup point, basically only.
I understand.
I'm not seeing anything there that says anything about the runs.
Yeah,
It says
the notice,
No, it says it's not in the application.
right, on our agenda, it doesn't refer to a kennel And the notice of public hearing says it's a request for a special use permit to allow an expansion to its existing animal care facility. So I'm not sure there's been notice given to the public about there being a kennel. And if there was, you know, maybe other people would be here, because I think there's a significant difference between
That's
the
a big
kennels.
difference.
Yeah.
Maybe I just point those things out for y'all's consideration.
Well, I would feel comfortable to go back with the spay and neuter clinic, and then with the projected plan that you guys have, come back at a later date, and then have that. I'm good about it.
And the Humane Society is amenable to deferring the kennel aspect of it. We wouldn't really think, we really were just looking at it as an overall plan, you know, for their facility and not so much the specifics of the kennel. We want everybody to be happy with that. And since it all is contingent upon their funding and other things, the more important thing right now is the spay and neuter clinic. So if that makes everyone else, you know, feel better about the whole thing, it's okay to defer the kennel. Or, you know, however you want to handle that, whether it's a modification or a condition, and save that for future.
How would you feel about that, Mr. Key?
Staff's totally receptive to that.
Mr. Sturgis, would that, according to what's been posted, would that be in conjunction with it?
Yeah, I think it'd be acceptable legally if y'all voted that way to approve the special use permit for the, you know, the building for the spay and neuter clinic part of it, and not to have in the special use permit anything about a kennel.
Okay.
And they could just come back in the future at that point if they desired to do that, and it'd just be a new special use permit to be considered as to what the facts and circumstances are at that point in the future.
If we were to do it that way, would you still need the 5-year projection on it, or would you want to do it with just the 1-year projection?
Can I be sworn in?
Yes, you may. You swear the evidence you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay, just please state your name.
She's taller than me. My name is Deborah Zappa. I'm the president of the Humane Society of Union County. And the good and bad thing is that because we are a charity, 501c3, sadly, I feel the chance that we would have the money to do that is like probably impossible.
To do
So,
what?
To do the kennel part.
Okay, we aren't talking about that anymore.
Yeah, oh, okay.
So as far as as relates to the spay and neuter clinic, are you
Right.
prepared to start construction?
Oh, well, that
within a
was the
year?
other part I was going to say about that is that we would love to have it done in a year. Again, because we're a charity, I guess I can't absolutely promise we're going to have the money to do that, but that would be what we'd like to do.
But they get the 2 years? Or?
It's 1 year to, yes, well, they got a year to get the permit, and then basically it's 2-year vesting.
So you
But
got,
if they go with the 5-year vesting, then they've got up to 5 years to
Well,
pull.
the 2 years should be fine. I just can't promise it's going to be done in 1 year.
Okay.
Is that,
all right, that was the question. So
okay,
2 years is probably gonna work. We don't need to do 5.
right.
Okay.
It's 3 years total, so
Three,
we're gonna
yeah.
get.
Oh.
No.
It's
2 years for.
It's 2 years total, right?
2 years total or 5 years total?
2 years total. You get a year to get permitting and a year to get construction.
Okay.
You can do the 2-year vesting without a site-specific plan, but the 5-year requires a site-specific plan.
Okay.
Either way, if they want to go the 2 years, they will have to ask for the vesting.
Well, I'm not following you. I
I'm
thought
sorry.
they had 1 year to get the permit,
Right, and then they would have there's
a
one.
year to complete construction.
Right.
So they have, in essence, 2 years, as long as
Right.
they get their permit.
If they ask for the 2-year vesting, then basically that gives them 2 years to pull the permit.
So they get a total of 3 years.
Yeah, roughly.
Well, where's our authority to change the vesting rules? I just have not looked at that before.
The vesting rules come out of the general statute, and we just copy those into the section that talks about the Board of Adjustment's responsibilities and how special uses are done, and it talks about vesting in there for special use permits.
And it says that the Board of Adjustment has the authority to change the statutory vesting schedule?
No, the Board of Adjustment cannot change the statutory vesting. Statutory vesting, you can have 2-year statutory vesting, or you can ask for up to 5-year statutory vesting. What our ordinance says is that if they don't ask for the statutory vesting, they have to pull a permit within 1 year of approval.
Right.
If they get the statutory vesting, then that will give them, if they get the 2-year statutory vesting, they have 2 years to pull that permit. So it expands that time frame for pulling the permit.
Who has authority to grant them that 2-year vesting?
Board of Adjustment.
It does, it says that in the ordinance or
Yeah.
an ordinance? I just haven't
Yes.
dealt with that question, so I wasn't used to it.
So if they don't ask for anything, they get a year.
That's correct.
And then the
Anything
year
more
for
than that, they have
construction.
to ask.
That is correct.
Would
And they
you,
haven't asked for anything for the spay and neuter.
Correct.
They have not asked for any additional vesting.
No,
Okay. But they can if they want to.
they can if they want to.
Okay.
so would you be, ladies, be comfortable with the 1 year for the permit and then the 1 year for completion of the building?
Or you have the option to ask for 2 right now.
Oh, well, could we ask for the 2 then?
It's not a
Thank
big-
you for guiding us.
It's really not a big deal, and go ahead and ask for it, and you got it. If you don't need it, you don't have to use it. But
That would
if you
be
need it, you got
wonderful.
it.
Thank you.
I don't
Thank
think
you
this
for-
case is hinged upon.
Thank you for
a
helping
year.
us. We love animals, we know animals, we don't know this stuff. So thank you for helping us.
All right.
So that would allow them 2 years to get the permit and then a year for it to be completed.
Oh,
They'll
that
also
would
give
be,
you 3
that would be
years.
wonderful.
Okay.
That would be doable.
You
All
got all
right.
that?
Okay, got that.
I have a question.
Go ahead, go right.
Yeah.
You was reading that other permit,
Right.
or that, what were the restrictions on that at that time?
Site plan is shown, need gravel driveway and parking for 6 spaces, spay and neuter clinic use only, no outside runs or overnight stay for animals, limit building size to 12,000 square feet, storage building shown on site plan to be used as storage only, no medical supplies to be stored. That's a good question. It seems to me where you're going is,
Do
we
we
need-
have to amend that one before we can?
or would this one replace that one? I guess, is the special use permit just for the land next door, or is it for the whole new land and old land?
Well, the board can approve it as a new special use permit
But
that would basically supersede
Supersede.
the existing one.
That may be the wiser thing to do.
Yeah, I think so, because basically, if we allowed this, everything would have to happen inside the new facility. Nothing could go anywhere else. And we don't, they couldn't even store medical supplies at the other part of it, the way this is written.
And this also limits the building size to 1,200 square feet, so.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think we just need to supersede the original
Okay.
permit.
But also the spay and neuter clinic's gotta be in a different physical location than the site plan.
Right.
Good point.
So we need to basically do it in a way to where this one is basically throwing that one out and we're going to the whole new one, correct?
I would think so. I would think it would replace and probably be part of. And you may wanna have, some of the same conditions that are in the old one. You always need to select.
Well, we, probably as far as parking, we're gonna need more, aren't we?
You can just say parking is required by ordinance or something.
Yeah.
Do you want to retain storage building and medical supplies?
Sorry, what?
Would you want to retain storage building limits and medical, those medical supply limits? If you're looking at the conditions of the previous special use.
Might want some input from the applicant on that. Have y'all seen the prior special use permit? Maybe didn't bring it with you?
The prior permit says that the storage building shown on the site plan at that time, which I assume you know what building that is to be used only as storage only with no medical supplies to be stored. Is that currently the case? You intend to keep it that way? You don't intend to? Okay. So we'll just add that to the new one there, right?
All right, now how about the house that you operate out of?
That will become our adoption center and offices. It will not have.
So nothing will be medical a part of that?
Correct. All medical will be moved to the new building.
So anything to do with any medical supplies or anything is gonna be in this new building, period? Okay.
Well,
Okay, so let's, one thing we need to back up on what you just said too. You said the offices will be for the adoption clinic. Where will these animals be kept while they're being adopted?
They're in foster homes.
Okay, so they won't be at this facility?
No,
Okay.
just a meet and greet place.
Okay.
Just
okay.
a nice location for people to come and interact with the pets and pick which one they'd like, or interact with the one that they've already
So there won't be any
chosen.
overnight staying of the?
Correct.
Okay.
Okay, but now, Mr. King, do we need to put something in this amendment that allows that? Because
No, that's a,
it was totally different. I mean, they're asking for a medical facility to spay and neuter. Before, it was a drop-off point and a pickup point. And that there's nothing in any of them that says that it's a place where you can meet and greet for adoption.
well, they're under, let's see, where do we go for the uses?
I'm just talking about to cover us.
Well, I mean, this is being a special use permit. I mean, the special use permit doesn't have to cover every single event that occurs. If they're affiliated with the activity, I'm trying to see where this, I was looking at the category a minute ago. This is under, it's either boarding or shelter, grooming or training, supplies or veterinary. I mean, all of those are permitted with a special use permit in the RA 40. And so they're asking for a special use permit to perform those functions. I mean, it would seem to me, having an office building, you know, this is the Humane Society that's dealing with pets, is probably close enough, but that's up to y'all's judgment.
I'm just thinking about putting some wording in there where they're not gonna have a problem.
Well, I mean, one time, you have to be careful about putting too many restrictions or definitions in it. I mean, for example, the medicine, they aren't got this new facility built for a year, 2 years, or 3 years, so we can't say, you know, only spay and neuter's gotta take place in the new location, because for the next 2 years, it didn't. So, you know, just because of the motion of time, now keeping out the, you know, the boarding part, that's obviously a very significant difference, and not having that as part of the special use permit is fine. But to give it a special use permit for, I would assume veterinary, and, you know, I'm not sure, you know, I assume veterinary, you know, I know the vet I go to, you know, there are animals there to be adopted. I mean, that's, they're out there out front, and so I'm not sure that's.
Do you think maybe it's gonna be grandfathered into that?
No, not my, I mean, it's not, I'm just saying that may be part of the definition of what a veterinary clinic does, is it allows adoption.
Ladies, one thing we're trying to do, we're not trying to be hard, we're trying to protect you.
Oh, I appreciate
So
that,
if-
I understand
If somebody
that.
puts in a housing development next to where your boarding, where your facility is, and they go back and start reading, and they come back and say, well, y'all can't be doing this. We're just trying to clear everybody
Right,
out. and
we
keep you
appreciate that.
ladies
Thank
covered.
you. The animals say thank you.
Now, so you are spaying and neutering on site now.
Yes.
It really would be nothing different in that respect, other than we'd like a larger facility, because the people of Union County is growing. There's more and more people with pets, more and more needs for the spaying and neutering services. Our appointments are way out. We can't get enough people in. So it just seems like the need for the community is to have a larger spay neuter clinic where more surgeries can be performed to help the people of Union County, because we're overwhelmed with requests for help. And obviously, we want the animals spayed, neutered, you know, that's a good thing to control overpopulation. Or so we believe, I guess.
I'm thinking that we would just basically go with what they're asking for minus the kennel part. I don't even know if there's any need to put any stipulations in it, like Mr. Sturgis said.
We probably need some, the ones y'all were talking about, you know, being complying with parking for the size square feet they have.
Well, yeah, but I'm talking about other than what the staff recommended.
Right, we probably don't need a building restriction, but we ought to reference the site plan, you know, a facility similar in nature to the site plan attached as an exhibit, and there probably should be no outside runs or overnight stays. That same condition that was on the prior one, And other than that, I'm not sure I'm seeing any other restrictions. Right.
I would also like to add that because it is in the Lakely water supply watershed, there's a 36% maximum built upon area threshold anyway, so that's automatically going to limit the size of the parking in the building, because you can only have 30% or 36% coverage.
Right, but you'll still need to comply with, I mean, you got plenty of space, but you still have to comply with the parking requirements for a building
Sure.
of that size. You know, and the fact is 36 does not,
Right.
they're two unrelated things.
Right, I'm just saying, and if you're considering limiting the size of the building, it's kind of innately limited due to the 30% impervious coverage.
Mr. King, what would your recommendation, after what we've been talking about, what would your recommendations be right now? As far as what you've got there and what's been spoke with between these and you guys?
I'm perfectly fine with the board putting, limitations on not having the kennels there, not having the runs, not having any overnight stay, and definitely to incorporate staff's recommendations into that, into your recommendation as well, such as, must comply with all local, state, and federal requirements that will cover the zoning, the parking, the landscaping, any outdoor lighting, and all that kind of stuff, or any other kind of requirements they may have to comply with outside of those of the county requirements.
I'm good with what he just said.
All right, I have one question, because we have 5 questions we have to answer before we can approve this. And question number 3 says, the applicant has noted that they have a licensed appraiser to present findings at the Board of Adjustment meeting. You have a licensed appraiser here. All right, so I need to hear from him so we got the record. So, sir, would you swear the evidence you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? So, yeah. All right, please come up and state your name.
I'm Andy Morrison with Morrison Appraisal.
All right.
And I actually did the impact study for both cases tonight, so do one squaring.
All right.
Do you have a report you're going to share?
Any kind of report you have? That you
I do. I think it was probably submitted.
do you have that, sir?
Yeah.
Mr. King has a copy of that. So that's all. That was part of the application, Mr. King? Yes. So we don't have to add this to the. All right. So, based on the evidence you're presenting, you're saying that it's your opinion that the use will be in harmony with the neighborhood and should not adversely affect surrounding property.
Yes, that's correct.
Thank you, sir. Anybody else want to see this?
I'd just like for him to explain in 100 words or less the basis of his opinion.
100 words or less, the basis of your decision.
100 words, okay, too.
Yeah, I just compared it to actually, in this case, other humane societies of different counties. And we looked at residential nearby, and then looked at residential not influenced, and that proximity, compared them, and there's a difference between the two, just showing a value impact.
Okay. Any other questions for Mr. Morrison? Just want to make sure we had that clarified, because when we get to that question, everybody's going to look at me and go, well, so now we have it clarified. Anything else? Any other questions for anybody else? Thank you, Mr. Morrison.
Thank you.
Anyone? Now stand. All right. All right, hearing none, I will close the
Well,
hearing.
let's see if there's anybody in opposition.
Oh, is there anybody in opposition? Sorry. Don't rush me at once. I have to ask that question. I forgot to ask it, even though I felt confident there wasn't anybody, but I get caught sometimes, and that's why we have a lawyer. All right, at this time, I will close the public hearing. All right, board, we have 5 questions to ask that we must answer. Question number 1, the proposed use and development comply with all regulations and standards generally applicable within the zoning district and specifically applicable to the particular type of special use.
Yes, seeing that they already had one, yes.
All right, so we'll vote on that. All in favor that it does, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay. Number 2, the proposed development will not materially endanger the public health or safety. Again, they've already got the facility there, and the only issue is additional parking, and they're gonna be able, they'll have to meet all those requirements anyway, so I don't see anything, any other questions about that one? All in favor that it does not, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Number 3, the proposed development will not substantially injure the value of abutting property or is a public necessity. We've just heard from Mr. Morrison. His report is part of the record. All in favor that it does not substantially injure the value of abutting property, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Number 4, the proposed development will be in harmony with the area in which it's located. It's already there. Is that a problem? It's already there. All right, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? And the proposed development would be in general conformity with the comprehensive plan. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay. Okay, you'll have a motion.
Okay. Now we're going to write this up.
That's the job of the motion maker.
Right quick here. All right, I make a motion to approve the medical.
And you?
Why don't we call it a veterinary clinic
Okay, the veterinary clinic.
for spay and neuter.
All right. With no kennels.
Why don't you also maybe say, develop, I can't think of the right word, generally in conformity with, was this Exhibit A? The site plan?
Okay.
Was that Exhibit A, did y'all,
Right.
Mr. Green?
Yes, that is Exhibit A.
So,
Exhibit A site
conformity
plan.
with Exhibit A
Site plan minus the kennel
minus the kennel
with the following conditions.
with the following conditions of, for no kennels, no runs, no overnight stays, comply with state, how did you word that?
Staff recommendation, right?
Or, well, I was talking about, when you was talking about the driveways.
Comply with zoning, parking.
Yeah, zoning with the parking and other state and local regulations. And then what was the other one?
I guess the last one was compliance with the zoning administrator's recommendations.
Yeah. Comply with the zoning administrator's recommendations, and also this special use permit will supersede the previous special use permit for this site.
So that's in 2 years.
And 2 years vesting.
Yeah.
Ask a question.
Yes.
That's okay, it's just related to the wording you just used.
Go ahead.
Sure.
I would think this would be permissible. We might
Okay.
be able to-
Okay, just because you were just speaking about not wanting to limit what activities they're able to perform within that veterinarian use.
That's a
Because
good
we
point.
just said out loud, only spay and neuter, they just wanted to make sure that they'd be able to do the general wellness and other, whatever else. other
I agree.
veterinary-
That's a good
Just
point.
say veterinary procedures,
Yeah, or
instead of just limited.
why don't we just say veterinary clinic?
There you
All right.
go.
Just
I
take
think
that
that's
word
awesome.
spay and neuter.
Yeah, I think
Thank
that's a
you.
good.
You're welcome.
That's a good suggestion.
Mr. King, it's very important this time that you know what we're doing. Have you got all that? Okay, why don't you read it back to us what you've got, if you can. If you can.
Turn this on. Mr. Tilley made a motion to approve the veterinarian clinic for spay and neuter development generally in conformity
Right,
with.
delete that
Delete
spay
spay
and
and
neuter.
neuter.
Veterinary clinic.
Veterinary clinic, there you go.
Developed generally in conformity with Exhibit A site plan minus kennel and fouling and runs. With the following conditions: no kennels, no runs, no overnight stay, full compliance with zoning, full compliance with the zoning administrator, or comply with the zoning administrator's recommendation. This SUP will supersede the old SUP and
Also give them
2 year
2 years.
Yes.
vesting.
Everybody okay with that motion?
Yes, you did good, sir.
All right, is there a second?
A second.
Second by Mr. Davis. Any other discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Thank y'all. You may
Thank y'all.
feel free to stay, but you are. All right, now I gotta figure out what I'm doing next here.
Jim, did you get one of these? You were out of the room when they were handing these out. This probably needs to be attached to.
You may already have one in there.
They said that's the newest one.
Thank you,
And
ladies.
also, here,
Sir.
Thank y'all.
the other thing
Thank y'all.
they gave.
Okay.
5-minute recess. 5-minute recess.
Yeah, we're gonna do a 5-minute recess. I'm sorry.
Stand up.
5 minutes. That's 5 minutes.
Sneak downstairs and put this file back up, so I'm gonna lose it.
Thank you.
Don't have Nate's come before you come to me. I got his gesture. Thank you, Mark. All those years of being in Nicaragua, in a leadership position. My sister. 10 days, 5 days, 7 days. Motion favorable.
Took your son this time?
My son wants to go.
Yeah, that's what, I thought that's what I was overhearing.
Wants to go next year.
Said he's gonna hurry down there, hurry back.
Come back to order. This time we are moving to item D, special use permit 2018-002. Garden Oak Holiday Lights Incorporated for a major outdoor entertainment venue, tax parcel 07-021-008, located at 4701 Hardest Road. Mr. King, is the petition complete?
It is.
This time, does any board member have a conflict with this agenda item? Okay, hearing none, I would ask for a motion to hear the petition.
Motion to hear.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Tilley, second by Mr. Thornton. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, Mr. King.
All right. As stated, the property is located at 4701 Hardest Road. The property is currently zoned R840 residential agriculture. And the existing use is Wise Acres Farm, which is an organic strawberry and pumpkin farm. The proposed use would be to expand the use of the current facility to include a major outdoor entertainment venue, which would be a mock spot, town square, and the main activity there would be Christmas lights display, where they play music and the lights are synchronized to the music. Currently, the applicant does this Christmas light show at his personal residence, and because of overwhelming viewing of the light show and the congestion created by the vehicular traffic in the neighborhood, they've looked for another place to put it, which could become a permanent site. And to kind of change the venue, instead of staying in your car, they're creating a facility that people can go and enjoy it. Facility would be approximately 26,000 square foot. That's the outside parameter of it. It would have approximately 12 fake storefronts, and the viewers would come inside this facility to view the light shows, which would be displayed up on the fake storefront facades, which I'll show you a mock model that they've got made up of it. So the current zoning, as I said, was RA40. It's surrounded by county zoning RA40, and a portion of the property abuts Indian Trail. Current land use for the land use plan calls for this area to be mixed residential. As I said, it flanks Indian Trail, and mixed residential would be considered of low to medium density residents. This would be in keeping with the land use plan because the special use permit would allow that. Environmental features.
Well, why is it in conformity with the land use plan, you say?
Well, because the ordinance would allow it with the special use permit, that would make, it's not really out, it's in line with the farm. The farm's going to be the major use. The farm is compliant with the land use plan. Therefore, it's an expansion of the existing use, which will keep it in conformity. The environmental features, they've got a portion of the property does have a creek on it, but that will not be affected by the proposed use. And the municipalities that surround in the general area are Indian Trail, as you can see from the map right here. As far as transportation goes and the capital improvements plan, looking at Hardest Road, or not, sorry, not Hardest Road, Poplin Road, which would remain a two-lane road, and then way down in the future, again, this is not a funded project, but North Rocky River could become a four-lane road there. This is the mock illustration that they've got right here showing when you get in there, it would have storefronts, kind of look like a mock downtown. And here they're showing where the location would be. Closest proximity to a property line would be 145 foot, showing where they got proposed parking. They also have a parking agreement with the elementary school directly behind the property for any overflow parking. One thing I do want to point out here is that when they first approached us about this, we had a provision in the ordinance that said that anything that was a major outdoor entertainment venue had to be 500 foot off property lines. which would classify it as a major. It either have amplified sound, it have exterior lighting in excess of 20 foot, or more than 50 parking spaces. They will have amplified sound that will be interior to the actual structure itself. Of course, with Christmas lights, so you'll have lighting out there, and it will have in excess of 50 parking spots. There was a text amendment that was recently adopted by the Board of Commissioners, and that was if you could provide a sound study to show that a proposed use would produce 65 decibels or less in the property line, then it would allow for reduced buffer. And so they've actually have hired a sound professional and have got some evidence along with that. I do want to point out that that information would be quantified and qualified during the time of site plan approval. And so unless if there's any type of opposition here tonight, we would look at that again, and they'd have to prove that or provide that information to us as part of their application package when applying for site plan and building permit.
So the amendment allows the reduction, the buffer reduction to what?
To whatever they can get it to. So
it's based upon the sound, how far it is from the.
Correct. If that, say, 100 feet, they meet that 65 decibel rate.
Okay.
And that would be the minimum buffer that they would have to provide.
Okay.
So, staff's recommendations is, of course, that they comply with all local, state, and federal requirements. Site plans shall fully comply with the Union County Development Ordinance and other Union County Department regulations. They need a permanent NCDOT driveway permit. They currently got a temporary one from NCDOT, and I spoke with a representative of NCDOT last week who is working with them to get a permanent driveway permit. Staff also recommends that they maintain a minimum of a 100-foot undisturbed buffer adjacent to property lines. In the illustration prior to that, they were showing their minimum buffer would be 145. And that at time of site plan approval, that they would need to demonstrate that the noise levels for all proposed venues will not exceed 65 decibels at the property line, and need to define the parking area, not only the parking area, but have defined parking spaces, which can be accomplished. One like parking area, if they gravel at the area that they're wanting to park in, and use some type of wheel stops. It could be, railroad ties, or if they wanted to go the extra mile and get the concrete wheel stops and put out there, but something to delineate and to let us know that they've met those parking requirements. And they also set a threshold, a maximum threshold number of persons that would be in what I call the arena at any given time. At this time, if anybody has questions, the staff will be happy to answer.
Yes. How will they set that threshold for the maximum number of persons in the arena at a given time?
Looks like it will be whatever the fire marshal's going to allow them to have.
Okay.
And again, during site plan approval, that would be
Okay.
something they have to maintain.
Now, with the defining the parking areas and defined parking spaces, will the areas that they've been allowed to park as far as the school and so forth, so that will come in play in this also, that will be defined also?
School has got a paved parking lot, so there's no question.
Will they have to have written permission on this, or is this just going to be, okay, y'all can use it if you want to?
I know Wise Acres currently has, I believe, written permission.
Okay.
Do you guys have a copy of our written agreement?
I do not. I can get you one tomorrow. It's through Union County Schools. They require $1 million liability policy for their property as well.
Well, why don't you testify to that in a minute so we can get in the record?
Okay.
Okay.
That's all.
So what's the space requirement on it?
We're going to have to figure that
That's
out.
the whole big debacle.
Yeah, because we don't have anything in our parking regulations now that would really address that.
But that's not gonna change that. I mean, they're gonna have to meet whatever you say. I mean, that comes in through the whole permit thing.
Yeah.
Basically, that would come in through whatever the fire marshal would allow in the venue, correct?
Right, whatever the maximum number that the fire marshal will allow within the arena area, then we would probably assign something one parking space per every 4 persons,
Right.
including staff and volunteers.
Anything else from Steve?
I just want to affirm that it's in the paperwork that I received, that this is not just a Christmas display. This is also 4th of July, as well as Halloween, as well as wedding venues. And so this is truly a request for special use for an outdoor entertainment year-round.
That is correct. Currently, they're focusing on the light show for Christmas and then something for the 4th of July and for Halloween. However, they don't want to sell themselves short, so they've also added in the request the wedding venue so that they won't have to come back at a later time to modify their request for the special use permit.
Is the wedding venue going to be inside the village? Is that where it's limited to?
That's the understanding right now, yes.
Okay, we probably need to make that clear, so it's not outside or other places. Now, is the land around it, is that where the strawberry or farm is?
Yeah, the strawberry farm is on that parcel of land. Let me see if I can't get back to, trying to think what would be the best picture. Yes. So you can see in this area right here, this is where the farming operations are taking place. This is actually, if I'm not mistaken, this right here is the actual strawberry patch itself. I can let Farmer Rob speak more towards that since it's his property, and he can give you specifics on it.
Okay, so the undisturbed buffer area does not include the strawberry patch?
It's not going to include anything with the present farm use. It's only going to be this outdoor entertainment venue.
Mr. King, on that map you've got right there, can you put the corner roughly where it's going to be over toward that? Right, okay, exactly. Thank you.
Be right in that area right there.
All right, so it's significantly distance from the farm part. All right.
Now,
Any other
one other question. It says rental as an event and wedding venue. What other event? I guess I'm bringing that up so they don't have a rodeo out there, or, I mean, it just says an event. It doesn't classify what kind of an event. It opens it up pretty much as an event.
Yeah, what staff has talked about is, for the most part, limiting the use of the structure or the arena area itself for the Christmas lights, for the Halloween, for the 4th of July, and any type like weddings and stuff of that nature. Now, there was not any discussion about rodeos or anything like that, but that's definitely something that you can put in your motion that cannot occur there.
I'm just concerned about that, leaving that as an event is open to whatever event you want to have. I think there needs to be some kind of classification there.
Either that or just remove it from.
I'd rather just remove it. Okay.
Can't you just say like holiday and wedding events?
You could. I mean, it's totally up to y'all's discretion on how y'all want to word it.
I think we need to be very careful so that we don't open ourselves up, somebody come back at us.
Right.
But as long as there's an agreement that there's no rodeo, nothing such as this, no dog and pony show going on. But like Mark was saying, as far as a holiday event or something, as if it could be controlled, whatever your staff would recommend, Jim, to handle that.
Well, it's hard to do it by the negative. You can never list all the things you
I
can't
understand,
do.
Yeah. Let's see what the applicant's asking for, and then
Okay.
we can come back to this.
Okay.
I think that's probably the best way to handle that.
Okay.
Anything else, Mr. King? Okay, hearing none. This time, thank you, Mr. King. This time, the applicant and anyone who wishes to speak in favor, present evidence in favor of the permit, would please come forward and be sworn. This is all of you. If we get this done, there you go. That's what I'm talking about. The more the merrier. See, you got one. We can get a lot of.
Come on, Sharon.
Just the whole town come up. You swear the evidence you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God. All right, whoever wants to start may start. Please make sure you fill out that little green piece of paper if you speak. And leave it with Mr. King. State your name and your association with this whole organization permit process.
Hello, my name is Pete Kimball. I am the original creator with my wife of Garden Oak Holiday Lights, and we are the ones that are trying to create this new venue. Just a couple of quick things before we get started here. We have current neighbors. I have a volunteer that helps with us, a volunteer general contractor that is also here with us, the owner of the property, the gentleman that did the sound test for us, and also Andy Morrison that did the value assessment. I would like to just get this out in open to begin with here, that the wedding venue itself, the planning department did a terrific job, like the previous group that was here with the Humane Society. They asked us to dream big, and that one of their recommendations was a wedding venue. At that time, when the suggestion was made, I think that it was not exactly, it was the beginning of a relationship here, and everybody did not know the direction we were going in. We now understand, with speaking with the code enforcement, that this would change us to a people gathering spot, and that would require differences in codes, permanent bathrooms, that type of things that we were not looking to go in that direction. So we'll be happy to leave it in there with the understanding that we would have to meet and comply with all code requirements if we decided to go that route. If it makes it too complicated, since it wasn't in our original intentions to begin with, we'll be glad to pull it out. No problem with that. Garden Oak Holiday Lights, we are 100% volunteer. We all have 9-to-5 jobs. We do this because we feel that this is something that we can put ourselves into outside of work. During our Christmas season, 100%, actually the only time we do our display right now is during Christmas, 100% of the donations goes to cancer research. Nothing is pocketed by any of us. We are not compensated in any way. And the display has always been free to the public. And that is our intention going forward, that when we move to the new venue, the Christmas display will again be free to the public. Concord at the Speedway has a display charging, I think this year, $25 a car. They're making a killer profit of things, but that's not our intention. Our intention is to raise money for cancer research. Cancer is currently affecting my family. My wife is a survivor, and that's the reason why we decided to go this route. These types of displays historically had people that gathered from it by word of mouth. That's how our advertising is now. We do not actively advertise other than having a Facebook page to meet current social requirements, but we do not actively promote in any way. By word of mouth, this display has taken on a life of its own. We would like to see that continuing. Our neighbors on our street have been very supportive of the display. They remove their cars from the street during the show hours so that traffic can move. Union County Sheriff has been supporting us with our traffic plan since day one. We've reached out to them, let them know what was happening in case they got any calls to our street. Here's our number. You can call ahead of time if you like, or disclose anything. If you hear anything about our display, let us know. They've never received a call, and actually when I approached Union County Sheriff about this situation that we wanted to move to, he couldn't say enough words to say that, look, you guys have had it rock solid for all these years. I don't see any reason why you can't continue going on with the way you're currently doing things. I'll be glad to take your questions now. Maybe some of the ones that you already were talking with Jim about that we can clarify.
Give us a general idea of beyond Christmas then.
Very good. So I told you that Christmas was free, and up to this point, my wife and I have flipped the bill at our house for this display, but we're not made of gold. And that this new venue is definitely something more than what we can afford to do. So we are actively looking for donations from corporate and individuals to build a new venue, but then you have to be realistic to understand there's going to be operational costs. Insurance, electricity, those types of things need to be covered in operational costs, and we were thinking of expanding the functions to outside of the Christmas season. A patriotic theme around July 4th. Families can bring out a blanket or a couple of chairs and sit around and watch a patriotic theme display. Christmas songs are great, but we'd love to do something else every once in a while. The Halloween display is something else right now at our home. People don't realize why we turn the lights on at Halloween. They think it's just that we have a light house that is in a Halloween theme. It's actually two parts. We're testing the lights to make sure that the power supplies and the lights and everything are okay from the previous year, that they'll still function for multiple hours on end. The neighbors are supportive of the lights, like I said, and that we make sure we do it before the season in short intervals. Halloween is just a good way to get it out of the way one time, make sure everything's testing properly. I should describe a little bit about what our display is. That, as Jim mentioned, that we are a synchronized Christmas light display. We use typically Christmas music. However, we do sometimes pick current pop songs, such as this year I think we're using Imagine Dragons' Thunder. It's a popular song, and Imagine Dragons actually raises money for cancer. So the combination of the normal songs from traditional Christmas and non-traditional opens up the interest of a lot of people that come to the display. July, patriotic theme would just expand on that non-Christmas theme. Halloween, the same thing, it would be a paid function. Bring your kids by. It's a safe environment. We know that we're not going to have little Johnny running off, too far at least. As long as he stays within the venue, he's going to be there. Consider this as an elaborate Hollywood set. It's the best way to put it. My wife and I lived over in Europe for a while, and Christmas there is magical, especially in Germany. That towns get together, they decorate the town square, and things just magically start transforming into this holiday season. We're not trying to necessarily 100% recreate that, but this is our rendition of that type of display. Typically, the town squares there are enclosed, and that you have the old military entrances in and out of the town squares from the old town, and that's what we're trying to recreate. We understand the recommendations or the concerns about the number of people. We fully agree. We've worked with talked with the fire marshal about that as we move forward along and the plans become more formalized. They're with an architect now being drawn up, that they'll base the amount of people inside the venue at a maximum number. And we're perfectly willing to comply with that. Matter of fact, it's probably going to be more than we're wishing to have inside the venue at any time. You have too many people in there, and our concern is that you're going to have people looking almost straight up at the lights, and that's not the intention.
All right.
We want them to mill around.
Well, now, so far, you've got Christmas, July 4th, and Halloween.
Correct.
Anything beyond that?
We don't have any, I'm sorry?
New Year's?
We're going to be running the Christmas display up to December 31st, New Year's Eve. I've been out there for the past 7 years every night, from Thanksgiving to Christmas. By the time New Year's comes around, we are tired people, and that we will be, usually I have to take 2 weeks off around Christmas time to handle the display. By the time January 1st comes around, that's the first break that we get, and that's probably something that we'll continue doing.
And you're managing these shows?
Correct.
Okay.
All right, have you ever had any thoughts of like some type of private party that you'd put a light show on for?
We did not have that idea, but now that you're mentioning it, if somebody wanted to do that, if it was within the requirements of things, if it complied, I think we could possibly open to that. The lights themselves, part will be permanently installed into the venues themselves. Part will probably be taken down because of weather. That we're not using traditional Christmas lights where you go down to CVS or Lowe's and you get a 110 volt string, you plug it in. These are the same lights that are used in big Jumbotron displays at sports events, the Panthers Arena, Bobcats Arena. These are the things that you will see them use. We buy the raw material of Hong Kong directly, bring it in, solder, assemble, put them into the display elements, and then set them up for for the show. With this, these types of lights, we're able to generate each LED individually controlled 16 million colors up to 40 times a second, hence our ability to synchronize these to the music. Change the color and the patterns and flashing and sweeps and things, all this other stuff. If somebody wanted to bring this in for or hire us for something else, I caution that because part of the thing's going to be disassembled, and that for us to reassemble it may not be worthwhile.
All I'm saying is, you're getting a special use permit.
Correct.
It's gonna say what you're allowed to do. So if you're thinking future here, now's the time to lay it on the table.
Fully understand, fully understand.
Well, and also, you can come back and seek an amendment in the future.
Yeah.
So it's this, but I agree with what Mr. Tillery's saying. I mean, things that would be expected, but don't feel like this is your only chance.
Yeah,
Right.
Like I said, I'm hesitant a little bit because, you know, it's not our full-time job. We're not there all the time, and setting up just for one event may be overwhelming just for us needing 2 or 3 weekends to set up before you have 1 hour or 2 event may not be worthwhile.
Okay.
Yeah, but I appreciate the suggestion.
Mr. King, what would, right now, they're setting this up as a personal type deal. He and volunteers are gonna be out doing it in their volunteering time. If they do this as a rental type venue, is that going to change? So if he does it to rent it out, will that change anything from them doing it as a personal type deal?
If I'm not mistaken, you guys are set up as a nonprofit currently?
We are a 501c3, yeah.
So it would all be covered under that? Yep. All right. One other question, Javier, you said that the electrical service is already on the property and will be extended to the new structure.
Correct.
All of the electrical work, will it be permitted and inspected and so
It
forth?
would meet
Okay.
meet the requirements, yeah. I've actually already reached out to the electrical inspector to investigate that avenue of things, and so far, there's no major roadblocks with anything there.
And that kind of dovetails into my biggest concern, just looking at it, is just from a life safety point of view, being fully enclosed, but you did state that you have hired an architect and you are working with our marshal.
We absolutely are, and that we also have another member on our team here that's not with us tonight. He is a contractor that recently, part of the firm that did the airport expansion, Charlotte Douglas. He's brought forward some of his knowledge with things, and that the entrances and exits, we wanted to give it some type of tunnel type experience to match what was in Europe when you're going through the old walls of the castle into the center. Our intention is to use sea containers, Connex boxes. These are steel containers, in that they're used, if you've been out to the airport, you've walked through those to get into the terminal. And the reason why those are there is because, one, drop hazards, but also fire. And that the fire marshal in Mecklenburg County loves these things. As long as there's a fire extinguisher on either end, he has no problem with people walking through these. And this is the intention we have for us, that we can secure the doors with the Connex boxes, just close them up. But then there's always a means of egress. One thing that's not on the model that Jim displayed to you is that there's 3 Connex boxes. The 4th one is in the model right now, but we understood that we needed a way to get large vehicles in there, including fire apparatus. So the 4th side will actually be gates. So this will be an 18-foot wide, 14-foot tall gate that would open up to allow those vehicles to come in if they needed to, and also as a means of egress outside of the venue. But since it's open air, the fire marshal also had less concern in that people were not going to be allowed inside the structures themselves. They're just mocked up buildings with display windows giving a Christmas theme inside. Looks like the old department stores that used to put money into the displays.
All right, any other questions?
I just need a little clarity, might be. So, Mr. Thornstein actually owns the land, and you are going to be putting on the display on the land. So we're actually giving Mr. Thornstein permission, special use. Is that, am I correct? So
The special use permit will go with the property, that's correct.
property. So it can, I'm disconnect here. So if you decide to discontinue the discontinue the show, he still has the permit to do any major outdoor event himself.
Will be restricted to what the permit says.
Right.
That is correct.
And the
Okay.
You'd
permit
still
will
have to do a
probably
Christmas
have.
show, patriotic show, and have to.
So that'd be the extent of his scope also. All right.
Might be easier just to have him do it, you know?
So you're
He's
taking.
good at growing strawberries, but I think that, I'm not good at growing strawberries, so we're probably good in our own worlds.
So we're taking the wedding venue out.
Yes, sir.
And the first part of that, prior to the and, was rental as an event. So is that staying, or are you looking at that going?
No, I don't, is this the wording that is for the special use application, or
Yeah,
just the wording?
rental
that-
as an event and wedding venues.
So is that removed?
Yes, I'd
The
like to
whole
have that
line or
removed.
just part of the line?
I'd like to have the whole line
I'm
removed.
okay with just the wording for the patriotic events, Halloween.
And Christmas.
So
Oh, and there is behind the scenes tours, sorry. I
Yeah,
forgot to
so
mention
take out that whole line.
Behind the scenes tours, this hobby that we're in right now is just at a hobby, and that there's lots of enthusiasts into this hobby. We share information. I have no reason to hold back any disclosed information from anybody that's into this hobby. They'd love to get tours of this place. And so this is another avenue for us to raise operational costs, that if they want to come in, see it Saturday afternoon, something like that, we'll be glad to let them in and you know, give them behind the scenes tours of how things work.
So you're, excuse me. So you're okay with just totally removing the rental as an event and wedding venue, just taking that out?
I'm okay with that, sure.
Okay.
And the behind the scenes tours, it says here approximately 2 to 4 events, but
Yeah, I mean, you're not gonna get that many people that wanna come every weekend, and I'm figuring maybe once a quarter offer it and see who would like to show up.
all right. Anything else for Mr. Kim?
I'm good.
The only other part to this is that, you know, learning from the previous group that was in here, we are a nonprofit as well, raising capital to build this, and that our intention is to do our first show in 2020. And that if everything flows correctly, we will be applying for a building permit the first part of next year, and hopefully breaking ground early summer of 2019.
You got 2 years, Steve?
Yes. Thank you for jumping right to the point. Thank you, sir.
All right, okay. If nothing else, Mr. Kimball, we will hear from whomever else you want to bring up next.
If you have any questions, anything more that I can...
I think we need to hear from Mr. Morrison for sure, and then we're gonna need to...
Would you like to go into the strawberry farm? How that is, any strawberry fields converted to the venue?
I don't think I need to know that.
Okay.
Anybody else need to know that?
No.
I need to know about traffic, I need to know about property value, and I need to know about that sound stuff, so whoever wants to come up next that can do some of that stuff for me. Mr. Martin, you wanna go ahead and get yours out of the way and
So yeah, we did the impact study on this one as well. Looked at other venues we could find. This is kind of a unique animal, so just any kind of gathering event type. Didn't find any negative impact on values surrounding any of these.
What did you compare it to?
We did, well, ironically, it's wedding venues and Rolling Hills. We looked at that around there with kind of the, a lot of the events. As far as light show, there's not much really to go around with that. Now I know, I mean, your current facility, isn't Brandon Oaks, right? So I mean, just now thinking with, you know, with taking the wedding portion out of this, you know, Brandon Oaks values, I mean, there's been no, I'm actually a resident of Brandon Oaks, so I know your display. So, yeah, there's not been, from a value standpoint, there's not been any impact at all from what he's currently doing. So I guess maybe we could blend that kind of
all right.
value
Any
impact.
questions for Mr. Marsh? Okay, thank you, sir. Could we have the sound study? We have that person here. All right.
Let me set it up real quick before you speak, so that we worked with Jim and Lee on this change of the ordinance, and that The audio that we are, don't want to make you think that this is a rock concert type of thing. The audio that we're planning on doing is what we call the Disney concept, as in Walt Disney, in that if you go down to Disney, you can have Cinderella singing and dancing over here, and you don't hear her. And you have Pluto over here doing something, and you don't hear him. You walk towards them, and you hear that sound. Disney has many speakers at a low volume to do that. It's purpose audio, and that our intention is the exact same thing. We don't want it to be a rock concert. Speakers above a person's height, about 10 foot off the ground, about every 10 foot surrounding part of the venue. And that I'll point out here that I don't have a good picture here. I can show it here. The part of the venue that is facing the nearest residential area, the speakers are actually on the inside of the venue, as I'm drawing out here, aiming away from the residents. So it'd have to travel across the arena, impact the large structure on the far side, back across the arena, and then out towards the neighbors. The sound testing we did was without this structure, aiming the speakers directly at the neighbors' houses and then measuring from the property line. Worst case scenario. So, Scott.
All right, Mr. Davis, I'm assuming?
Pardon?
You're Mr. Davis, I'm assuming?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yeah, I went out, I don't know if you want me to read through all the technical aspects.
I don't need you to read
of
through,
it.
I just need to make sure that, I mean, the board might want to know more, but we have a 65 decibel requirement. I guess the question is based on what you've reviewed, are they going to be able to meet?
Yeah, I'm fairly certain they will be. The loudest part at that property line was the insects, the birds, a plane flying overhead. You could hear the music, but sound is not additive. It's actually a really complex subject.
It is.
So you can hear the music, but the overall contribution of the music to the loudness at the property line, I'd say was pretty minimal.
Okay, so this is something that as far as I'm concerned, I mean, this is going to come in when you guys start the process on the back end of this anyway, but based on your judgment, you feel confident they're going to be able to meet the 65?
I feel confident.
Okay, anybody got any questions for him? Okay, thank you, Mr. Davis. Anybody else we need to hear from? Anything y'all need to understand that we need to call somebody out here for?
You mentioned traffic.
Traffic, yes, sir. You have
The permanent driveway permit was recommended by Mr. King here. Stan Brock is who contacted Jim last week, just for some clarification on things. Because we are, I should bring up another slide here. This is the traffic pattern that we have for traffic this past year that starts out at the Saturday after Thanksgiving. You can see the peaks running along here. This is Friday, Saturday night. As we get closer to Christmas, this gets higher and higher and higher. This past season, we had just over 250 cars on Christmas Eve. So it's not unusual for us that in the current display to have less than 20 cars a night, but we still manage traffic every single night that we're out there. We're expecting this pattern to hold true with the new venue, and that using basic statistics on changing locations from one location to another, defined by retail establishments, but the statistics, I think, still hold very true. From the numbers that we currently have and the pattern of growth, I was able to project theoretically what those numbers would be going forward, and that the first year looks like to be right under 4,600 cars for the season. Our busiest night, again, Christmas Eve, is anticipated about 450 cars. That's 113 cars an hour, or as a seasonal average, 35 cars per hour. The current operation that Wiseacres operates with their Pick Your Own Strawberry Farm and this previous season in the spring, Their numbers averaged about 170 cars an hour. We're far below what they are operating at. And that's not including the overflow that they do have into the elementary school. When this information was disclosed to Mr. Brock at the DOT, he did not have any objections of issuing us a temporary driveway permit, for which he was okay with it being indefinite as a temporary. He understood that the cost and expense of going into a full driveway permit with a site plan, possibly some analysis to be done, was just unnecessary in this situation because of our operation and anticipated numbers.
You see the Strawberry Farm has 130?
170 cars per hour.
Per hour?
Per hour. Yeah.
That's a lot of strawberries.
So you're saying that the DOT representative is willing to give you an indefinite permit?
Temporary driver, yes, sir. That's
so that could be forever?
From Mr. Brock, correct.
Okay.
Well, unless they change their mind at some point.
That's my
Any
question.
more questions about traffic? Is there anybody else you want to hear from? You have what you need to?
I'm good.
Quick.
Is the landowner here?
Landowner will have him
Yeah.
come up.
And just give some clarity, I spoke with Mr. Brock, and one of the reasons why staff was wanting to see a permanent driveway permit was of the possibility of expanding the use out there for weddings and other events. Mr. Brock said he felt perfectly fine with a temporary if it's only going to be used for patriotic, Halloween, and Christmas.
So you're comfortable with that then now?
You're
Yes.
comfortable with that? Perfect. All right,
The other point, the recommendation about the parking area, that this is a symbiotic relationship between Wiseacres and ourselves. These people are very generous, that we put out a plea last year to our visitors that we were looking for something new because we know that the traffic is building to the neighborhood. And like I said, our neighbors are great now in supporting us, but we know that that's just a matter of time before we push the limits. That's why we're planning ahead. Wiseacres, their current parking facilities do not have these requirements, and that the parking is perfectly fine. We, in our mind of things, when we first set forward with this, we use a lot of thoughts towards the Renaissance Festival. I'm sure you guys have been up to Concord, possibly to see this. Parking's in a field. I believe the gentleman that I spoke with said that he has 12 acres of land that is, for major parking and 4 acres just for handicap parking, some crazy number. And that their venue has a mixture of hard packed soil and loose gravel for handicap and others to venture into their facility. And that was something that the city of Concord had no problem with granting them since it was a limited use. Our total hours of operation, if you look at the number of hours that each thing operates, is that 2020 we're only operating 121 hours total. We operate 6 to 9 on school nights and 6 to 10 on non-school nights. From a business standpoint, this is a terrible business model, but we're doing this for the seasonal aspect of Christmas and for raising donations for cancer research. 34 nights is what the 121 hours equates into, 9% of the year. When we add in the patriotic Halloween, the behind-the-scenes tours, that jumps up to 142 hours is what we estimate, 13% of the year, 48 nights or days. It's just, I'm asking that things be put into reasonable perspective to what we're asking.
You're asking not to have those things pointing, showing where the parking space is.
Yeah, because we're trying to reuse what they're existing currently.
If they went with just the seasonal event, the weddings and all that, would what they have be fine?
Staff would be willing to work with that, yes.
All right.
What is the Wise Oaks that you're talking about?
Wiseacres
Wise
is a
Acres?
farm, is the name of the farm.
That's the name of the farm.
Name of the farm,
Okay.
yeah. And
I'd like to have the owner, I would like to hear from him if he could come forward. Please state your name.
Rob Thorstenson, I'm the owner of Wiseacres Farm.
Okay, you're good with all this?
Yeah, oh man, thrilled.
All right, I guess that's important to ask him. You're the guy that owns the property. Any questions for him, just so?
Well, you have a written lease arrangement?
It's gonna be $1 a year, yes. We will, I talked to my attorney already, and for liability reasons, yes, there will be $1 a year lease paid from the foundation.
Right, do we want to require a written lease as part of the, or just leave that up to them?
I'm getting one for sure, so you guys don't have to worry.
Oh, but, and was it, our copy of the application isn't signed, I assume, do you have a copy signed by the parties? If not, we probably want to go and
It's
use
time,
that.
it's not time. Or date. We got them both here. If you don't have that, let's get that done.
One quick question while they're looking for that.
Yeah.
This might be something you don't want to disclose. What kind of dollar figure are you looking at for this? If you don't mind me asking, would you rather?
I'll be glad to. Out on our website, we disclose all that information. Last year, we raised just over $7,000. We're anticipating, it averages out to less than $1 a car. But so the new venue, we know will take some time to recover the cost, but that's the aspect of continuing the tradition that many families have taken on and to continue supporting cancer research. That's the reason we're going.
Do you have any idea what the venue is going to cost by the time you're through? Would you rather not say?
Well, right now, I'd be glad to disclose the information because it's on our website. We are looking for raising $600,000. $150,000 of that will be for the lighting alone. The remaining cost is in material donations as well as monetary donations. Volunteer hour donations are also gladly accepted. That part of the venue will be built with volunteer hours, landscaping, that type of thing. It's a grassroots effort, community support, that type of thing.
Yeah.
Mr. Kimball did bring in a signed copy. However, Pam's got all the originals. So what
What
I'm
else you
doing,
got?
I've got something. I'll just get him to sign it here. So we'll
Okay.
have two
All right.
originals.
Are there any other questions for
Mr.
anybody?
Thornton. I want this to work. I really want this to work.
So do we.
But this is your land, so
Yes.
this is an outdoor thing. Do you have, if this doesn't work or outside of that, do you have any aspirations to use this space when he's not using it, or if it doesn't work, after that fact?
No, I have no aspirations in this space. I know nothing about what he does on construction. It's totally up to him. We wanted to get involved, try to help the school, neighbors as well.
All right, anything else? Thank you, sir.
Yeah, if you would sign the application there, both of
Yeah,
you.
y'all both sign that, so we
One of
got
you
it.
is under owner, you probably can see where it
And
is.
the owner and the, all right. Okay. At this time, is there anyone present who would like to speak in opposition? Okay, I see no one. Does the board have anything else before I close the hearing? Okay, hearing a no. Hearing is now closed. Thank y'all. We have 5 questions to answer. Y'all know the 5 questions?
Sure do. Right there they are.
TV
They've
quiz
been answered
show.
right here.
Well, we've got significant information here they have provided, so I'm not gonna, I don't think we have to, other than if there's something else you want to add. As we go through each one of these, I'm just gonna ask Gary Nay. And findings of fact, we've got a lot of information here that Mr. King can pull from. Is that all right with you, Mr. King? So if there's a red light, tell me. Item number 1, proposed use and development comply with all regulations and standards generally applicable with the zoning district and specifically applicable to the particular type of use. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Number 2, the proposed development will not materially endanger the public health or safety. All in favor, aye. Aye. Any opposed? Number 3, the proposed development will not substantially injure the value of the budding property or is a public necessity. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Number 4, the proposed development will be in harmony with the area in which it's located. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? And number 5, the proposed development will be in general conformity with the comprehensive plan. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Do I have a motion?
Make a motion to approve with, for Christmas, 4th of July, and Halloween events, and behind-the-scene tours, giving them the 2 years extension on the permit, and comply with any state, local regulations that exist for this. Or major outdoor event.
Well, does a major outdoor event have any restrictions that we've already agreed to release? For example, the parking outline, the permanent driveway permit, any of those?
Why don't I just add to my motion that the parking stays as is on the no
marking required.
Yeah, no marking will be required on the parking in the location.
That's fine. I didn't know whether our kind of standard language might capture things we didn't intend to capture was kind of my inquiry to Mr. King.
And add to that, that they're not required to have the stops at each parking spot.
Mr. King, a major, what is this, a major?
Outdoor event?
Outdoor event doesn't require a permanent driveway, does it? Okay.
You good with that motion?
I believe so. Let's see. This is what I've got written down. Mr. Taylor made a motion to approve the SUP for major outdoor Christmas, or major outdoor, still writing.
Entertainment venue?
Entertainment, yeah, venue, to include Christmas, 4th of July.
Not to include, but for the purposes of.
Okay, for the purposes of. For the purposes of Christmas, 4th of July, Halloween, and behind-the-scenes tours, to do the 2-year vesting, to comply with all state, local, federal regulations. Parking does not need to be marked, and do not need to have wheel stops.
Does it need to be mentioned about the buffer as far as the 65 dB sound level, or is that would be covered under county ordinance? Is
That would be county ordinance.
Okay.
One of the staff's recommendations was to maintain a minimum of a 100-foot buffer, though.
Okay.
He's showing on his plans that he's going to stay 145 foot away. But
Well, you want 100.
the staff just has to make sure that we.
Add that,
Yeah.
must stay 100 foot off the property line.
Well, it's, make sure they understand it. A 100-foot undisturbed buffer means that they can't go in there and cut the trees or go in there
I think
and
it's just for sound, right?
plant, wheat or corn or, this is more for the homeowner or the landowner, but it's, so from the circle of the event itself, or is it from, because it won't go to the property line, the buffer wouldn't.
Yeah, what you do,
You measure
from the property line off, you'd come off 100 foot, that area just remains. So it gives them 45 foot between the actual structure itself and the buffer that they can go.
100 foot's measured from the property line all the way around.
Right.
Just to clarify one thing, for full disclosure, and part of the information you received was the traffic plan given to Union County Sheriff. And in there, it shows the pathways that we were looking for the traffic to enter through, a common point between the two different parking areas. And that would be less than 100 foot, but we're only talking about a 10-foot wide path.
Yeah, I mean, you can bisect that for purposes of ingress egress.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
And it is the commissioners that okayed the 65 decibel and the shorter buffer.
That is correct.
So we don't have to specify any of that.
Well, the buffer is, the 65 decibels measured by sound.
Right.
The zoning administrator wanted a 100-foot buffer in addition to that decibel requirement.
We're okay with that as long as we said we know a pathway to enter the area is in that.
Yeah.
All right,
That's fine.
we're good.
We're
Okay.
good with that.
Okay.
So was that added to the motion?
That's added to the motion now, right?
Okay.
You good with that? And there's a second?
I'll second.
Okay, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Thank you.
Thank you.
Anything else to come before the board? Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Let me ask one quick question.
Rick did, I think, didn't you, Rick?
Okay. Rick, you made a second, Mr. Kelly made a motion.
On the first? Yeah.
Jim, I'm pushing the button. I don't think I did it right.
Okay.